Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to URBONUS podcast. We are between Christmas and New Year, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and as always, Rytis Vyšniauskas, Donatas Urbonas. We will talk about some EuroLeague action this week. We have our special topic for this podcast. We will give mid-season awards in 6 categories. We will also discuss 2 very hot games. I would say 1 very hot game. I would also say Christmas special. Unix Barcelona, and then we will talk about the derby, big Greek derby, Panathinaikos, Olympiacos. But before, Rytis, I liked your dumpling record last week, and I'm curious, did you manage to beat that 41 dumpling record?
No, man, I stayed humble this time. First of all, Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy New Year. I really tried to control myself. So I ended up eating 15 dumplings, but I tasted some other
Discipline
dishes.
Number. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tasted some other dishes that my mom prepared. There were some very good options. I'm not a fish guy, I would say, but some of the dishes that my mother prepared, they were really great, even with fish. So
when mom is over there, I mean, it's always great. Usually it's really great.
So I really controlled myself. And this Christmas Eve, we started eating a little bit earlier, so we would have more time to digest, and you can go to bed feeling not so full. So it was a really good Christmas Eve with family, quality family time. Other than that, on Christmas, on the first day of Christmas, there were a couple of NBA games for me. On the second day of Christmas, it was Boxing Day football in the English Premier League, so I was working a lot. We just exchanged gifts with my girlfriend, and then I went to work. So yeah. What about you? It's your first Christmas with your baby.
Yeah, I remember we were preparing for the Christmas Eve, and almost everything was set. We had a plan for our evening, and we put a baby into bed, and we just started having a dinner. And 15 or 20 minutes later, baby started screaming, and he was always very nervous for like 3 or 4 hours later. So we had everything.
You should have done something like.
I tried everything. Oh, okay, okay. But you know, sometimes this shush makes people angry and crazy. So after watching Isaiah, I was trying to avoid another problem, like in Palau. But the highlight of my Christmas weekend was, again, baby was pretty nervous at evening. It was the first Christmas day. But somehow I managed to calm him down. I sat on the sofa. He was all over on me. He slept on my chest. And we were just watching. There was a Adele concert on our national television. Amazing concert, by the way. It was in LA. Big people in the crowd, from Leonardo DiCaprio to Rich Paul, for example. And it was a great evening because he was sleeping. We were just talking with wife and enjoying that music of Adele. So it was the best moment of the Christmas.
What presents do you put under the Christmas tree for a toddler?
I have to be fair. I hope my baby won't listen this podcast a few years later. But we almost didn't put any Christmas gifts for him because we already spent too much on him preparing for the birth. And also we knew that we're going to get a lot of gifts, not for ourselves, but for the baby. So I don't even remember what we put under the Christmas tree, but it was something what we bought before Christmas. So
okay, so
sorry for that.
Let's just hope that in the future he does not listen to your podcasts when he's like 10 years old, because he might get a little bit angry.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I didn't get any presents in my first Christmas? Really? Yeah. This is how you're parenting me?
I'm a terrible dad. And then I will explain what I did for him and what we had to go through. So it's gonna be a very good conversation,
right,
with that little terrorist. But I have to say that he's getting better. So I'm starting to enjoy my fatherhood days. Actually,
you have to trust the system.
Yeah. I suffered at the beginning, but you have to suffer, and in December some good results might
but maybe
come up.
Sometimes you're not getting respect.
Sometimes I deserve more respect, and I will talk loud about it.
What about the physicality?
Physicality, it's not always there. Sometimes there's more physicality, sometimes there's not. Yeah, talking about the respect, for example, this morning he pissed on me, and I thought that I deserved more respect. He just pissed off at me and he was laughing. So,
but you're not looking at the standings.
No. It's only December, and we will talk about everything in April and May. Right. I'm being patient and just looking every day as as a new chapter.
That's the best approach. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Sharas and his amazing quotes we used to in Žalgiris times. By the way, you mentioned before the podcast that you saw a lot of interesting players during Christmas night, and maybe you have any offers for the EuroLeague teams, which might hit the market strengthening for the rest of the season.
I don't really think these guys are qualified enough to play in the EuroLeague, to be honest. Yeah, you're talking about what's happening in the NBA right now. Since I had a lot of NBA games last weekend, some of them I was covering, some of them I was just watching at home. I mean, now every day when you tune in to NBA games, you will find some new names, new faces, players you never knew that it really existed, and you will forget about them in a week. Like Orlando Magic had on their starting lineup Hassani Gravett and Admiral Schofield.
No disrespect to these guys. No, we don't want to look like Stephen A. Smith with Nigerian national team, but
no, I'm not disrespecting. But Orlando Magic, they are bad enough with their full roster, but now because of COVID and injuries, they are signing these guys to 10-day contracts. And Hassani Gravett played in the North Macedonian League last season, averaged 12 points per game. He won the championship. Fair enough. Now he's on a starting lineup for an NBA team, Orlando Magic. So really, Adam Silver is saying that they will not stop the season. They will not be planning some Orlando bubble scenario. They are willing to go ahead the way it is. But these games are unbearable, really. I mean, on Christmas night, we had Milwaukee versus Boston. It was a decent game, even though Boston had a very short rotation, again, with a lot of problems. We had Suns, Warriors, it was good, but also we had like Knicks and Hawks, and it's Christmas, and you're expecting something special, and you're just seeing these scrubs. I'm sorry, I don't want to offend anybody. This is not the real NBA.
Let's talk about Christmas classics. Barcelona, Unix. That game left me a very interesting impression, because I think that EuroLeague should try to bring Netflix to make some documentary series about the EuroLeague basketball, because we have a great example of Formula One. Netflix helped a lot to increase the attention for the Formula One across the whole world, and especially the United States. For example, the averaging viewers this year was 53% higher than last year, and the number was increasing every year after Netflix started their series about Formula One. And I already see this script for this season, for example, the Shush, Real Madrid playing against CSKA with youngsters, Mike James, every time, every year, every month, there's a new interesting story. Greek derbies, you have Sharas you had, and probably you will have soon Željko Obradović. I mean, there's so much content and so much drama to make a good documentary series.
This is us talking from our bubble.
European basketball geeks.
Formula One is global. It's a big thing, and it's been a big deal for 40 or 50 years.
It's global, but the interest for this sport, I would say, increased significantly
I get
in
it.
the United States.
Popularity increased, but...
And EuroLeague should go abroad. They should try to hit the US market. And I remember I had a conversation recently, probably it was Aaron White, and we discussed some things about media, about the exposure for the EuroLeague. And I don't remember how many games they broadcast, but probably there are a lot of issues that Americans, they just don't see EuroLeague basketball.
Well,
It's a tough question because the quality is not there like in the NBA, but there are some stories and some games to show and to attract some fans.
I can answer about this really why it wouldn't work for the American market the way it is right now. Time zone. Simple. Are you watching NBA games during the night?
No, unless it's playoffs.
Unless it's playoffs, right? So NBA has this like...
Or at least it's late Sunday game. Early in States and late...
It's Sunday, it's 10:30 in Lithuania. So you're watching that, right? So it's like a European time game.
So that's why you should make a documentary series.
And
because I'm not watching Formula 1, for example.
You make documentary series, right? They might watch it, they might enjoy it. Will they start paying for a EuroLeague pass to watch the games? No. For example, in America...
Because time zone also makes an impact for the Formula 1 broadcasts.
Yeah, but they're on weekends. It's very different. So, for example, there is a huge fan base in the United States of America of the English Premier League. The English Premier League is on weekends. They can go to the pub even early in the morning and watch those games and drink beer and enjoy football or soccer, as they would say. EuroLeague is being played Thursday, Friday. How do you imagine a working American person?
So we need to make the EuroLeague closed league on weekends.
On weekends,
then to show Americans.
And still, you would be competing for air time with the NBA.
That's tough, right?
It's hard.
Okay.
Because Formula 1...
I have a dream.
Because Formula 1 is Formula 1, right? There is nothing...
But okay, at least make a good documentary.
I agree on
Because, for example, I'm not watching Formula 1.
I agree on a documentary.
But I loved the documentary. I watched probably we had 3 seasons. Anyway, and my interest kind of... Because I was Formula 1 fan when Michael Schumacher was over there and he was competing against Mika Hakkinen, for example. Since then, I didn't watch the Formula 1 before Netflix documentary happened.
No, I agree on that one.
Let's start from something.
I'm just saying why it's impossible to bring EuroLeague to an American market, and a few other points that I could say. Formula 1, like I said, is Formula 1. Americans do not have their own Formula 1, which they would think is better. Formula NASCAR. 1 is global, right? But NASCAR is a different sport.
Yeah.
It's a different sport. Then football, like Premier League and all the other leagues, Barcelona, Real Madrid, El Clasico, it's big for them because their major league soccer is not really good. And European stars, big names, go to America to actually make their game better. Now basketball. Basketball is theirs. They have the best players, they have the best league, and if you put EuroLeague on a screen for an American viewer, he might find some players. Oh, this guy averaged 3.6 points per game in Charlotte. Why would I watch him? It's impossible. It wouldn't work. It's like creating a new NFL in Europe. For us, it might be interesting, American football in Europe. But how would you prove to an American that this is also interesting? Watch this. This is good. They already have their basketball. I think it's an impossible market for the EuroLeague.
Looking for long term, probably, and not trying to make something bigger than documentary.
Right, documentary would be great. I agree on that one, and we have personalities, characters, everything right now in the EuroLeague.
Let's just start from this, and later we can check.
Well, maybe
if there's interests, why not to try to broadcast, let's say, game of the week.
The Final Four is actually broadcasted in a lot of countries and in America as well.
And it's on weekend also. Okay. Anyway, EuroLeague should do this job. I mean, to look for ways how to hit the U.S. market and to make some moves. Not us, but we're just throwing
the U.S.
some
market,
ideas.
Or should we talk about the Asian market, to be fair?
Philippines are crazy. For example, we have some few videos which went viral on YouTube. And what is interesting, that the biggest audience was from Philippines. So maybe you're right. Maybe we should go for that market too.
And I think it's easier to approach them because they do not have a product inside their countries like NBA.
But they can choose NBA instead.
Well, they're NBA fans, but I wouldn't say that fans like in Philippines or in Japan or in South Korea, if they watch basketball, their actual, I would say, principles are the same as Americans, because Americans are very proud of their sports. And you can convince, I believe, like Philippines people that EuroLeague is good, it's great basketball, there are a lot of good players, and it's worth watching. I think it would be a lot easier to have this conversation with someone from the Asian region than someone from the United States.
That's okay. Now we're moving forward and finding some common sense.
We were not prepared for this discussion, but it was kind of interesting.
Let's start talking about the Barca Unix game, and I tried to split that game because there's so much content about this game. I tried to split this one, the call, the shush, and just the game in general. So first of all, the foul call on Nikola Mirotic, free throws that helped Barcelona to make it in overtime. What do you think about that situation?
Star call, air. It's air. I mean, this foul. First of all, awarding free throws for that is not good for the game of basketball. The NBA, with their examples of James Harden and Steph Curry and other players getting cheap free throws when imitating jump shots, they actually changed their rules. So you would not get free throws for something like this. So
I think it's also coming in the EuroLeague.
It should.
In the coming years.
It should be. So first of all, for me, it was like, it's not free throws, but then I'm also thinking, Tanya Jekiri, you should be smarter than that. You're up by 3. Mirotic already has the ball in his hands. You know he's gonna go. He's gonna go for this. You shouldn't foul him. But then the next day, I woke up in the morning. I actually watched this again and again and again, and I started thinking not only about the free throws, but then I was thinking like, where is the foul? There's no foul there. Not only free throws, but I don't really think Mirotic was fouled.
I tried to analyze this video with few referees, and they mentioned that, let's say, if you are looking for a foul, first of all, they think that was a foul. And if you're looking for a foul, probably the problem was the push, and just either a push or he was just having his hand,
somewhere on his body.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, I mean, that was the main mistake by Tonia Jekiri, first of all. I mean, you have to be much smarter in situations like this.
Okay, so even if it was the foul, what about the free throws?
No free throws, really.
He jumped in the air and then he just put the ball somewhere on the side.
Yeah.
How can you interpret that this as a jump shot, shooting motion? How?
That's why we should have more video reviews in situations
so
like that.
So the coach's challenge.
It stops the game. But
right now in Europe, the coach's challenge is nothing.
But the problem with the coaching challenge in that particular situation was that Perasovic didn't have any timeout. And to have a coaching challenge, I think you have to have timeouts left.
Okay, but even if he had, the coach's challenge in Europe does not allow you to challenge for simple fouls. So the coach's challenge in Europe right now is something that doesn't actually give any power to the coaches.
It's basically only for an unsportsmanlike foul like decreasing the foul.
And once again, the NBA, they were the first to try the coach's challenge, and they're successfully doing that. You can challenge anything. It's up to you. If you want to try and risk, you might lose your timeout. The challenge might not be successful, but you can challenge anything. For example, Boston Celtics playing the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo was driving to the paint. He hits Marcus Smart. It's an and one, but Ime Udoka is not happy with the call. Marcus Smart is not happy with the call. They are completely convinced that it's a charge. It's an offensive foul, so they are taking the challenge, right? And it could be the 4th foul on Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you're just willing to give it a shot, right? If it's overturned, it's a win-win. Not only you avoid 2 points, but also the opponent's star player gets the 4th foul. The challenge ends up unsuccessful. The call stands. You lose a timeout. Fair enough. But this gives you an opportunity to actually change the game with your challenge. In Europe, what we have right now is the first season we're living with these challenges. They're just useless. Not enough impact. It should be expanded.
And also think that, okay, Perasovic didn't have any timeouts left. So, for example, in a hypothetical situation, he didn't have a challenge to use in that particular moment. But at the same time, that foul was so unclear that why not just to analyze this play one more time with a group of referees? Because Damir Javro, he was the guy who called that foul. He was the guy who sent Mirotic for free throws. I mean, he was standing behind and he had a really bad view on that play, I would say. So I can see that he wasn't sure about that call. And I believe that his colleagues also weren't sure. So why not to review the play? Even if there was a challenge or not.
Are they allowed to review?
They should be. I know that it stops the game, but at the same time, I think it's useful. I see more advantages than disadvantages because we're already making a lot of reviews during the game.
I mean, they should be allowed to review whether it's a shooting foul or not. And
it's a crucial situation.
I cannot believe that the referee would go to the monitor, see this, and think like, okay, it's free throws, it's a shooting foul. I do not believe that. It was their instant reaction. And also, like I said, it's a star call. Again, it's hypothetical, but would you imagine something like the game is in Palau? On the other side of the court, let's say
Žalgiris is playing.
Žalgiris is playing and Niels Giffey is going for a jump shot with the ball in his hands like this, and he's fouled, and Barca is up by 3, and it's the last seconds of the game.
I have a question for you. Do you prefer, let's say, over-calling fouls or not giving foul?
I just prefer consistency. I really don't have an answer to your question. I just like when there are no double standards, and if the referee set a line, for example, in a game that this time we're going to allow more contact, so they stick to that for 40 minutes, the players adjust, and yeah, it's fair. However, watching basketball for more than 20 years, I understand that there are star calls, that some players are more special than the others, more equal than the others, let's say. Everyone's equal, but some are more equal. So it's happening in the NBA, it's happening in Europe, and it's impossible to avoid that because, well, star players, I mean, every time you make a decision when you're a referee, it's really hard to just think like it's a player X going against player Y, and it doesn't matter who they are. It matters who they are. You've known them for a lot of years. You know that this guy is a flopper. You know that this guy is always very brutal and always playing on the line of a sportsmanlike foul. You know that this guy is a superstar and he's very good at drawing fouls, and sometimes you just cannot really see whether it was real foul or it was something that he really made by himself. So I'm willing to live with that as long as there's consistency.
You know, I'm asking because I feel bad watching games being decided on the free throw line. For example, Barcelona in fourth quarter and overtime, they attempted 29 free throws. And not just that situation with Nikola Mirotic. I think that refereeing in this case, by making so many foul calls, they kind of ruined the end of the game because before Mirotic, you can remember that Lorenzo Brown, and he was also on the line after Laprovitola fouled him. And if you watch the replay, I mean, okay, there was contact, but it's not a foul to decide the game the last minute. And for example, if Mirotic didn't have a foul call and he, for example, missed that shot or assist, whatever it was, and Unix won that game would have been decided by Lorenzo Brown free throws on that particular situation, which was, I mean, my idea is let these guys play, let them decide things on the court with shots, with some field goals and not the free throws, because it was ridiculous watching EuroLeague social media accounts. Probably it was on Twitter or on Instagram. I don't remember. They made a clip of Barca making free throws in the end of the game.
So they set the record, I think. They made like
42 or 44.
They made 39 consecutive free throws, and then Sertac only missed.
Yeah.
But it's crazy number.
I mean, it's crazy that in the last 15 minutes of the game, both teams combined, they scored 41 point of 89 from the free throw line. That's not how it should be. We remember the game FS Barcelona. 2 main players were fouled out in situations where we just witnessed ghost calls.
Yeah, but in the overtime, for example, Kyle Kuric is moving without the ball, and he just gets fouled. So we cannot ignore that. You have to call those fouls.
It depends. But there were some situations where, they were just fighting for the ball, or in the end of the quarter, in my eyes, referees gave an opportunity for Barca to play more physical than Unix.
Okay, maybe so. But I think we're still talking too much about the refereeing.
That's the problem.
Unix Kazan, in my opinion, they should not have been in a situation where the game is decided by Mirotic free throws. They shouldn't have been there in the first place, and they have only themselves to blame, to be honest. They were up 20. They were in control. They were the better team. Then all of a sudden, they stopped playing offense. Mario Hezonja took some really wild shots in the fourth quarter. They were just dribbling the ball for 23 seconds and taking fadeaway jump shots at the very last second.
And Dan Dexum actually did a good job contesting these shots.
He did, but Unix stopped playing too early. They stopped playing their normal offense too early. Only isolation plays and difficult jump shots off the dribble that they were not getting in. Lorenzo Brown, Mario Hezonja missed shots. And the other thing is that they struggled with Barcelona's full court press. They made some silly turnovers. And they should have been prepared a little bit more that Barca at home in Palau, they will try to come back. Of course, we're talking about Isaiah Canaan's finger. And this was something that lit the atmosphere in Palau. And the players also got angry. Mirotic got angry, and when Mirotic is angry, he starts playing better. He starts punishing you. So for Isaiah Canaan turned out to be not his night because of this. He also missed crucial free throws in the overtime. Although I liked those, I liked the showmanship. What Isaiah Canaan did, and this one, and then staring to Barcelona's bench.
But I think it was a bit overrated because it's not something exceptional. That's probably 1/3 of American guards do every night.
Shushing the crowd, I don't see that too often.
For me, it was very natural reaction because Barca were starting a run. It was really important time of the fourth quarter. It was the middle of the fourth quarter. And Unix stopped the run, and Canaan's 3 was very important. Barca's crowd was wild before that play. You make a good 3-pointer, you shush the crowd. That's what can you expect in this situation.
Yeah, but
so I was just surprised that they were calling him puta madre, something like that, son of the bitch after that play. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't like Donatas Zavaskas showing a middle finger for Žalgiris fans in the derby game, for example. I didn't see any disrespect, and that's how Isaiah Canaan is. That was the usual play for him, and I want to see more players like him actually because it adds some drama, it adds some emotion. That's what this game is all about.
I'm all in for it, but sometimes you're looking at these players and you're thinking that they're like Superman, but then Isaiah Canaan goes to the free throw line in the overtime, taking 3 free throws, and Palau is going crazy. And this is the moment where you realize he's a human. He's a human being that has feelings, and it's sometimes difficult for him. He's nervous there on the free throw line, and he's missing 2. Isaiah Canaan is like 83% free throw shooter. For him, it's a routine to make these free throws, but he couldn't do it this time in this environment. So it goes to show you that they're still humans at the end of the day. And yeah, just finishing my point, Unix Kazan, they just had to close this game. They have only themselves to blame. Free throws or not, Unix Kazan were in a position to close this game and avoid what happened in the end of it. So bad luck in a way, but also they didn't do their job till the very end.
Yeah, of course. I also think that they were super unlucky. I remember well Mario Hezonja having great open look. It was something around like 60 seconds to play. Unix probably they were up by 4. He had an amazing open look and he missed that shot. Isaiah Canaan free throws. That's the thing what I wanted to say, that despite everybody was talking about refs being in favor of Barca because of that Mirotic shot, no, Unix lost the game before that call. And that, of course, now it's for me it's very easy to judge, very easy to make statements, but probably that was a time when Tarasovic missed that moment just to calm his team down. He didn't use many players in the fourth quarter. I think that he missed that opportunity to cool down Isaiah Canaan, to, let's say, to draw some better quality plays at the end of the game, because as I mentioned, either it was Hezonja or Lorenzo Brown taking really, really tough 3-pointers, and they just couldn't do anything about pressure, full court pressure of Barcelona.
And in the end, actually, Hezonja fouled out. They were left without him.
Also in a
Jakiri also fouled out.
Situation.
Also, they lost 2 players for Barca. There were also guys that fouled out. 3 players actually. Nikola Mirotic eventually got his 5th. Jokubaitis got his 5th. Laprovitola got his 5th. So I wouldn't call this game unfair refereeing in favor of Barcelona. But yeah.
No EuroLeague mafia in this case.
No,
sorry guys.
Just Unix Kazan had to win it in regular time, and I would say with a double-digit advantage, which they deserved. The way they were playing in the third quarter, you could see that they are the better team in this moment. Then I started remembering what they did in Moscow when they beat CSKA. Something similar was happening here. But at the same time, you have to say that Barca showed their cojones. I mean, making a comeback like this is difficult. And Dante Exum had his best game so far. Not only on defense, he made some big plays on offense as well. He ended up with 13 points. But I also would like to give a shout out to John Brown.
One of my favorite players.
Once again, showing what a warrior he is. In this game, he was everywhere. Steals, rebounds, fast breaks, 21 points, playing 41 minutes. And it was so painful to watch him in the overtime when he got hurt. Mm-hmm. And you could see he's hurt real bad. But knowing that it's John Brown, he's still willing to fight. He's still staying on the court. He's suffering. But then you saw that it's just impossible for him to continue. And Tarasovic had to make the substitution. But John Brown, wow, what a player he is.
What a journey he had. He started his pro career in Europe playing in the second Italian division. He spent 4 years in Italy before joining Unix, which comes to no surprise because Unix sports director is Italian, Claudio Coldebella. So probably the connection played some role in this situation. But his amazing effort, watching him being hurt and getting injured, it was something like watching a really great movie and seeing your favorite character of that movie dying, something like that, because it was so unfair. It was actually unfair that Unix lost that game because they fully deserved that win. And Barca, they were, if Barca fans saying that Canaan kind of disrespected and embarrassed them with that shush, I think that Barca players, they actually embarrassed their fans themselves with the play, with the game they showed before that historical comeback. But yeah, John Brown, we should have deflections category in stats because John Brown's numbers, they're not so impressive as they should be actually. And watching him having all these deflections, trapping guards, for example, I remember there were at least few occasions when John Brown and Marcos Pisu, they could do a really great job in streets of Barcelona and La Rambla, like pickpocketing or something like that, because they're a great team in stealing balls.
I hope it's a compliment because
it's a huge compliment. Yeah, because the competition in La Rambla is really tough. But John Brown and Spisu, they would be just amazing.
John Brown is leading the EuroLeague in steals by a mile. I mean, he's averaging
one of the best historical.
He's averaging 2.6
numbers.
steals per game. The second is Pierre Henry with 1.9 per game, which is also impressive. But John Brown is just getting these crazy numbers. I believe the steals record in a EuroLeague game or in a season still belongs to Manu Ginobili.
Yeah.
John Brown could go for that record.
Sometimes steals, the number of steals, that stat line is overrated because there are players who tend to try to steal the ball, but usually they actually miss their...
Mike James.
Alexei Shved, for
Mike
example.
James, number 8 in steals.
Yeah. And
Scotty Wilbekin, number 4 in steals.
Usually
not good defenders.
Costs more, it makes more harm than good things for their teams. But
it's called gambling.
Yeah, and usually they lose that gamble. But yeah, John Brown is a different case. And we actually did a good video about John Brown and him being one of the best hustle players, electrifying players in the EuroLeague. You can watch it also on YouTube channel of Basket News. Thanks, Gytis.
Yeah, and Barcelona end the first part of the season with 15 wins and only 2 losses, matching the best result so far in the modern EuroLeague, which was set by Fenerbahce.
And also they did that in last at least 6 games without Nicolaitis, without Corey Higgins. Alex Abrinas, we already forgot him.
He was out from the very beginning.
And this team was controlled by a 21-year-old point guard, Rokas Jokubaitis, who we almost all thought that this Barcelona chapter will be very difficult for him and we will have to be patient with him. Laprovitola, the same. He was written off even by some Real executives after the last year. And now he was having a really, really good break when Kalates was injured.
And of course, they were led by the most consistent EuroLeague player, Nikola Mirotic.
Yep, MVP season so far.
And obviously, a lot of credit goes to Coach Sharas for handling the situation and managing to win games not only in the EuroLeague but in the Spanish league as well. Because we know Jasikevicius and his approach. For him, there are no games that are less important than the others. For him, every game is important. He is so demanding.
He's crazy about that.
And he's trying to win every time. And to be leading the standings in EuroLeague, I mean, in the Spanish league, maybe they are still behind Real Madrid by a 1 victory, but it's not a problem. The position where they are right now is amazing. It's impressive, actually.
Yeah.
So and these wins like this, the comeback they made, they had some other games where they won in overtime with the buzzer beater. It shows that really they have the right mentality, even though when the game ends like with the scoreline 111 against 109, you expect to hear Shara saying something like, "This is not the way we usually win.
But
we win
just
by
taking
offense,
that win and we go to the next one.
We just take it and we go to the next one, right?" So I think they still haven't reached their full potential on defense. They were the best defensive team. They had the best defensive rating last season. Their numbers this year are not as good as they were last season, actually.
I'm not surprised at all because you have to play Laprovitola and Jokubaitis all the time. That's tough.
The
backcourt
so
defense.
That's what I'm saying. They still have a lot of potential to be better on defense. And on offense, it's working for them. They're leading the league in the assists, I believe.
Probably. Might be.
Because the ball is moving very, very well. Actually, Mirotic, the way he's getting his points, sometimes it's from a post-up situation like one-on-one, but so many times he's just getting his points after great ball movement, where he just needs to hit a spot-up shot, or it's a high-low play where the ball is just put in his hands under the rim. It's a good team where players know their roles, and even though there are superstar players by their status, they're not being superstars in a negative way. Everyone's a team player.
They follow the system, and Shara's just puts them in the best positions to score. But wrap up this game one more time. I mean, big shout out to Unix. Okay, they lost this game. They gave away this victory. But at the same time, it's a completely new team. They already overachieved. And that's just another lesson for them moving forward and trying to remain in the top 8. It won't be easy because many teams, especially the big ones, they will step up. And to be fair, it's hard to see more potential for this Unix team unless you will have some addition, I don't know, maybe for the front line.
What's the update on John Brown's injury?
I don't know. I didn't see that there were some serious problems.
So let's hope it's nothing serious.
Yeah. They have to stay healthy, and it's going to be hard for them. That's for sure.
Okay, so let's travel to Greece.
Yeah, Greek derby.
Do you like Greece? Athens?
I love Greece. Athens is one of the best cities for me in terms of fans, culture, people out there. Have a lot of friends.
Passion
in Greece.
For basketball.
Yeah, I mean, every ride with taxi, it's another basketball topic, conversation about Sharas, about what Panathinaikos does wrong, Spanoulis, how they hate Olympiacos or Panathinaikos. It's always very interesting conversation. Of course, usually only the taxi driver is talking because Greeks love to talk, but it's always a great experience for us basketball lovers. And it's warm out there, so I'm okay with that. Because now we have minus 15 real feel outside the office. So
I actually like the snow. I love those days when it's cold.
When it's sunny also.
And there's a lot of snow. But we don't have too many days like this, to be fair. Yeah, the Greek derby.
The atmosphere in Oaxaca was great, but the worst part is that there are new restrictions in Greece, and in January they will have
up to 1,000
people. That's bad. So I hope you guys enjoyed that atmosphere.
11,000 were here.
I hope not the last time this season.
But actually, about the game, there's not much to talk about.
Yep.
You just could see that
Olympiacos just cruised
these teams right now. It's different quality. I know that Pau won the domestic league game, which they had previously,
and I have to be honest, it was one of the better games for Panathinaikos this year, in my eyes, because the games I watched with Panathinaikos, they were pretty ugly. So it was not even the worst scenario. They lost by 19 points, but the difference was smaller than that because they built the lead in the end.
The fourth quarter was 30-14 in advantage of Olympiacos. But I think Panathinaikos were just staying in the game because of Papagiannis' qualities and Nemanja Nedovic making some tough shots. But Olympiacos is just a better team right now, a much better team.
In every category.
You can see that in the standings. You could see that on the court. I think Kostas Lukas had a very good game playing his pick and rolls.
He put Macon on basketball clinic, actually.
I think Sasha Vezenkov, once again, he's having a very good regular season. And you could hear him after the game when they won against Asvel. He was saying, now our minds are set on this Greek derby. We're going to prepare for this one. We got to bring our best game. And they did, actually. They delivered. Vezenkov, Lukas. Shaquille McKissick was an X factor, I would say. This season, his numbers are not really impressive, but in this game, he stepped up.
Made important shots in the end.
Yeah,
as well as Dorsey.
He made 3-pointers. You know that other teams are sometimes taking risks against him. They're going under the screens, and he made 3 out of 6. Tyler Dorsey and Thomas Walkup, these are just amazing additions for their defense. And of course, offensively, Tyler Dorsey is also extremely talented and skilled. So just a better team won. And we can talk not only about this game, but about how the season is going in general. Olympiacos is Final Four material. It's clear. Panathinaikos, they are where they deserve to be, actually.
I completely agree.
Now they're facing Žalgiris in the next game. So these two teams, they are where they deserve to be with the way they're playing and the roster that they have.
Yeah, and talking about Olympiacos, it's one of the most complete teams, I would say. They have the second best offense in the EuroLeague, the second best defense. They allow only 31% of 3-pointers. They're fourth by assists, second best in turnovers, and they're just playing really smart team basketball. They're very good build, very well built defensively. They share the ball. They're just like an actual team, and almost all these things are very opposite to what we see in Panathinaikos game. But what I want to say about Olympiacos, the thing about why we didn't speak about Olympiacos more before probably was based on the fact that we are not surprised about Olympiacos at all. I think we had them as 5th seed in our power rankings before the season. We really had them really high in the EuroLeague before this year, so it didn't surprise us at all. So maybe that's why we didn't talk about them.
But we were talking about them after some games.
Yeah, it's a Sky game, I remember. Yeah, but I saw that some of our viewers were missing more topics about.
They have to be mentioned. I mean, they finished the first part of the season in 3rd place, and they could have been even higher. They were unlucky in some games that they lost.
The scary part is that I see even more potential if Quincy AC will be performing in the second part of the season. He will help a lot, their front line, their flexibility, lineup flexibility. And also, for example, Thomas Walkup, he's making threes only by 19%. I think that in many games, he's like 1 of 16 beyond the arc.
He can do much better. He's
much better 3-point shooter. He's not very solid. He's not
a sharp shooter, but we know his numbers from Žalgiris.
Yeah, you cannot take risks as we saw in Panathinaikos game. They're just forcing him to shoot some threes.
I think the key is that this Olympiacos team is very well balanced. You have guys like Thomas Walkup and Tyler Dorsey that pressure the ball very well. They are so good in one-on-one defense. You have Kostas Lukas, the brains, the player that actually controls the tempo, plays pick and roll every time and is very successful doing that. You have Mustafa Fall to go big. You have Hassan Martin to go small. Even Mustafa Fall works actually in switch all defense, which is crazy. When you know his size, and usually these type of centers, they don't switch on defense. So it's a very well-balanced team. And Bartzokas, we know that he loves his rotations. He loves to rotate. He loves to set the rotation and to use it the way it's planned. And it's working for him in the long term. They won 12 games already. They will be in the playoffs. That's 100%. I think it's out of discussion. But it would be very interesting to see them going against, let's say, CSKA. Because CSKA, they every year they go to the Final Four. Right now, if it would be a playoff series, Olympiacos, CSKA, I wouldn't be so sure about CSKA,
yeah, of course,
having an advantage.
That will be for Olympiacos. It will be the question of matchups in the quarterfinals, and you never know. You might get Efes, and they might be on fire by
right now
time of the year.
It's too early to predict,
of course.
But one thing is for sure, that Olympiacos will be in the playoffs, and they are in a good position to fight for a home court advantage, which is also important.
Yeah, but when we compare these two Greek teams, we have to take the budget into consideration. From what I heard, Olympiacos, they had something around 8 million euro budget for players.
For salaries only.
Panathinaikos, their budget was something around 5.5. So, it would be unfair to compare these teams, not taking this into consideration. And we're not even doing that. But that explains some things, trying to talk about Panathinaikos' problem, but I still think that they could use this money smarter.
Of course, I'm sorry, but 2.5 million euros difference is significant, but it's not something that means you don't stand a chance.
Maybe in Greece it looks significant, but because they were used to big money. They were big spenders 10 years ago, paying huge money for the top European players. Now they're in a different situation, different league, but we're from Lithuania. We know better about budget restrictions.
I think with 5.5 million euros for player salaries, you can still build a better team than they have right now. I mean, you have Nemanja Nedovic. You're thinking he's a star player on the roster. You know that he's injury prone. But if you already have Nemanja Nedovic, then you need a true point guard.
Exactly.
And you're bringing in Daryl Macon
and Kendrick Perry, unproven guards, rookie guards.
It's a team of individuals. They don't have a leader. They don't have a point guard. Papapetru is supposed to be the face of the team and the leader, but he's a small forward. It's kind of difficult for him to be the decisive player, the decider of the games when Nedovic and Macon are doing their thing. Okay, you have Papagiannis as a good center, as a good big, but you see him playing 37 minutes. It shouldn't be like this. You should have some backups. You should have, you should invest smarter. They didn't sign good American players, in my opinion. And for the lower budget teams, the main thing is always to hit the jackpot with the Americans that you're signing, whether it will be 3 players, 4 players, but you have to be smart in the market. For me, it looks like they just simply went for random players with some statistics that they had in their previous teams, and now you're 17th in the standings, and you deserve to be there, to be honest. So the money, I understand it's an issue, but you can use the money a lot better than they did.
I completely agree.
I mean, they brought Dimitris Priftis. That seems to be a good coach.
Probably it was the best available coach from Greece.
But with this roster, what can you expect from him?
I mean, maybe they were expecting something like he did in Kazan. He was doing really great in Kazan with many individuals, and somehow he managed to make a team of them. But to be honest, it was all programmed. I mean, before this EuroLeague season, when we saw the roster, when we saw all these individuals, I saw that a few weeks ago, probably, it was reported that they were close to sign Stefan Jovic, which actually makes sense. Finally, it's a true floor general who also can play defense, and that's the player. Actually, Panathinaikos needed Thomas Walkup type of player, and the same as Olympiacos, and they did a move for him. So I was really surprised that if you have Nedovic, I'm okay with Nedovic if you have a solid floor general who can play defense.
And Nedovic then plays as a combo guard.
Yes.
So it works.
But now you have Macon, now you have Kendrick Perry. I agree completely about Papapetru. I love Papapetru as the face of the locker room, of the culture, and in my eyes, he's a very good asset or helper who has at least 1 or 2 superstars on that team. And but these superstars, they cannot be Nedovic, I don't know, Papagiannis, Macon. They have to be really solid players. And as you mentioned, it's really hard to find the small forwards as go-to guys. Probably we have only Will Clyburn as an example in the EuroLeague. So that's tough. I feel bad for them that they couldn't keep Dinos Mitoglou. It's a very important local player. I like his character, his hustle, his skill, and everything. And that was probably the problem with the budget. They couldn't keep him. They couldn't compete against Milan. But all the things they did, you could really do better.
Daryl Macon, for example, he's a scorer, right? You look at the statistics and they seem nice. 14.5 points per game, 59.5%
he's on a bad stretch. He was
shooting.
Averaging close to 20 points in the first part.
Okay, so he's a scorer and his stats look nice. But these are empty stats. You watch these games, he's not really a winning player. And now when they face 2 elite teams, 2 teams that are really good on defense, Daryl Macon ended up against Barcelona with -8 index rating. Against Olympiacos, ended up with -5 index rating. And then I'm thinking Dimitris Priftis in Unix Kazan. He had an experienced shooting guard, Jamar Smith, who was really good. I don't think he's more expensive than Daryl Macon. Was it impossible to bring him with a lot more experience in European basketball? Jamar Smith, Priftis knows him. He's a proven scorer in the Euro Cup. He ended up in Turkish League in a team that I actually barely know. And they went for Daryl Macon. So decisions made in the summer, they were just not the right decisions. But we had Pau in the standings when we were predicting the season somewhere 15th, 16th. So it was expected. And Olympiacos, they're an elite team. They're back in the elite, finally, after a couple of years of chaos and unsuccessful seasons.
Yeah, and I'm happy for that because we were really missing them. I actually love both teams because I have many friends around both of these teams. And to be honest, at first I remember I was cheering more for Panathinaikos because Sharas played for them. But then Kleiza joined Olympiacos. He was doing great over there, and in some years I found some friends around both of these teams. So I really love both of them. I would love to see both of them being successful.
I remember the days when it was not so common to bring a, let's say, big NBA name to the EuroLeague, because right now we're getting used to seeing players like OG Mayo and Kenneth Farid and Emmanuel Moody and others. And at that time, when it was really not so common, Olympiacos signed Josh Childress. So for me, it seemed like the biggest signing of the European basketball history. Mind-blowing, right? Josh Childress was actually okay. I cannot say he didn't perform.
Underachieved, I guess.
A little bit, but I cannot say he didn't
expectations
perform.
Were too high.
But defensively, he was really good. The expectations were very high, but at the same time, you saw when he started playing in the EuroLeague, you saw how actually different the NBA basketball is from the EuroLeague. But yeah, I remember that team. It was very impressive. At the time, they were signing superstar players. What's funny is that they finally won the EuroLeague when they had a lower budget and they couldn't afford Childress, Kleiza, and other star players. And they had to went for a system for
Dusan
Spanoulis
legend
and
was established.
Spanoulis was winning the EuroLeague with role players on his side. So
fighters,
fighters, warriors, right? But in terms of quality, they were role players. They were always facing more talented teams in the Final Four. So I think those Olympiacos titles might be the most impressive championship titles in the modern EuroLeague, because not only it's an underdog story.
Maccabi's story was also exceptional.
But in Olympiacos' case, you saw a team with a...
They had a continuity, which Panathinaikos are lacking right now also.
They had a team with a killer and a lot of hard workers. And it was enough for them to win the EuroLeague twice.
Yeah, that's the case. They had something to build around. The team around Spanoulis and in Panathinaikos.
And now the Olympiacos actually have it again, building around Kostas Lukas, who's a proven veteran, and he's still not that old, and adding good players. When you analyze their profiles,
good personalities.
Some players they're good personalities, and some of them are very good defensively. Others bring some physicality. Others bring some size, which leads to having a very well-balanced team where everybody has their role and they understand what they need to do on the court, and they're winning games once again. I mean, maybe for too long, they were dependent on Spanoulis and Printezis when they were getting older. Yeah. Now they moved on from that. Printezis is the captain, but he doesn't have to play 25 minutes.
Exactly.
So it works for them very well.
Yeah, and what I wanted to say about Panathinaikos, I think that they just lost their identity. At first, Kalaitis was that last guy who kind of connected the previous era of Panathinaikos, the greatness of Panathinaikos, and this new era, and Panathinaikos tried to build around him. And it was okay because with Kalaitis, you were almost the playoff team. But the problem is that, I understand that they didn't have enough money to keep him in Athens because Barcelona, they were spending a lot for him. But the mistake they did, that they fired Xavi Pascal because that was their decision. Kalaitis, there are some consequences, some conditions, some situations you cannot control. Xavi Pascal's case was in their hands. And I remember I was talking to Manos Papadopoulos, the former Panathinaikos GM, and he told that as managers, sometimes we repeat the same big mistake. And not only in Greece, we want to build a team without a big coach, and it's impossible. If you don't have the great coach, it's impossible to build a big team. And they found some quick success with Rick Pitino at first. They made the playoffs that year when Pitino came, but they were swept by Real Madrid. They didn't have any chance. And I'm not saying Priftis is a bad coach. Again, I'm just saying that he's he's the best available Greek coach for this Panathinaikos team. He deserved this chance because he was doing really great with Kazan. And I think he's a good person, good coach. He just needs some time to adjust. And he needs a better team to compete in Europe. But you had such a great coach like Xavi Pascal. I mean, they were doing bad that year when they decided to fire him. Probably because, let's say, it was hard for him as well to deal with Dimitris Giannakopoulos and all these bus rides from Turkey after some games they lost. But even if you had a bad season, just finish it and it started from the scratch. And you have a person, a personality, a character, a specialist to build around. If Kalaitis is going somewhere else, you can trust Xavi Pascal. Look what he's doing at Zenit. In any situation, any team he had, any changes he had to face, he's dealing with it. He's doing great job. He's readjusting, and again, he's competing for the playoffs and maybe even more. So that's why I feel bad about Panathinaikos.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I have a feeling that they will be much better in years. Now they're in a tough financial situation first and foremost because Dimitris Giannakopoulos is still one of the owners, or maybe he's the main owner of the team. I don't know the clear structure of that club, but the thing is that he didn't sell the team yet, but he's not investing at the same time. And also, Panathinaikos, they're very dependent on ticket sales, and post-COVID era hurt them a lot as well. So when we will get back to a new reality, when either Dimitris will be back or he will sell the team, Panathinaikos will do better. But now they have to be patient, they have to be smarter and use the resources they have at the moment.
They have to fight with Žalgiris to avoid
really bad.
To avoid the last spot.
Which means nothing actually. So that's about time to start our last chapter of today's podcast, which is EuroLeague mid-season awards. And we have 6 categories. And we would like to start with the MVP of poors.
MVP of the poor.
Yeah.
Meaning we will choose our MVP from the teams that are below the 10th spot in the standings. And MVP of the poor stands for whether it's a poor club in terms of budget or it's a poor team that is just performing poorly in terms of results. Yeah, so it would be very easy to choose an MVP from the whole league, but it's a different challenge to choose the MVP from these clubs that are below number 10.
Although this time for me it was a bit pretty easy because I love how Zvezda was performing in the first part of the season. I cannot say that they overachieved. That's what I kind of expected. They're tough every night. They're fighting. I see the really good team chemistry, and I just like the face of that team. Nikola Kalinic, he simply, he's the face of what this Zvezda team is, what their DNA is. And okay, it's tough to call him the MVP of the poor because probably he's getting more than 1 million euros per year.
But Zvezda is a low budget team.
Yeah, they're a really low budget team. And I agree on spending huge money on big players, game changers, and this, I wouldn't even call it gamble, but this huge investment, it really paid off for Zvezda.
It's no surprise, actually. Nikola Kalinic had a great season in Valencia, so you could expect him to be even better at home in Belgrade.
I just feel bad for him because he missed 2 crucial free throws against Efes. And they had that game in their pocket as well as
and he had a great performance, and he made a fadeaway
Tough shot.
Yeah, that's
how you should decide games.
Yeah,
right.
And then he missed the free throws, and Vasamichis on the other end made.
And before he made a stupid foul, trying to push Vincic from the baseline.
Yeah. Anyway, I have to agree with you on that one. For me, also in this category, the MVP would be Nikola Kalinic because he's winning games for Crvena Zvezda. He's adding so much quality for them. Maybe in the past we didn't know Nikola Kalinic as a very talented player. We knew him as the reliable defensive player.
Yeah, role player.
But now you can see that he actually has a lot of game. And one very impressive move that he makes consistently is this dribble over the back. The way he's getting
so slow,
the way he's
so
splitting the defense, or he's getting his way out of trouble, is the ball behind his back, and it's really working for him. He can still improve his 3-point shooting. I think he can be a better spot-up shooter than he is right now, but he's playing a lot in the post. He's getting the ball a lot in his hands. He is providing 3 assists per game also. He's a team player, obviously. You can call him a star. Actually, he could be on one of those elite EuroLeague teams. And
easily.
I was actually surprised that he went to Crvena Zvezda so early in his career. He's still only 30 years old. I was really expecting Barcelona to sign him, to be fair. But yeah, I agree with you on this one. There's not much to discuss. Nikola Kalinic fully deserves the mention.
Second award, the moment of the mid-season.
The biggest moment of the mid-season for me was quite recent one, actually. It is Real Madrid beating CSKA without their roster. Playing with kids, with a couple of veterans, hanging in there all the time, and then in the fourth quarter, going with the best lineup that they had at the moment and winning it. CSKA just couldn't hit any shot. They were just hitting the rim. Real Madrid, they were really good in protecting the paint. With Walter Tavares, first of all, they were eliminating those Will Clyburn's post-ups. They forced him to pass the ball, and guys like Schwed, Lundberg, and others just couldn't make their shots. But this is a very impressive win, which says a lot, not only about the team, but the club in general.
Yeah,
their mentality, the culture that is there, the youngsters, how they compliment the veterans. When you see a 17-year-old being there on the court, clubs out, and being there on the court with the legend, Sergio Llull, this is what Real Madrid is all about.
Yeah.
Legends, veterans, appreciating your history, appreciating these players and giving them long-term contracts, trusting them, playing the game the way it's supposed to be played, right? Nobody's going to kill Rudy Fernandez or Sergio Llull for taking a crazy one-legged fadeaway jump shot. This is who they are. Let them be themselves. And at the same time, with these legends, you have the youngsters playing, and it is working, and you are winning against CSKA under these circumstances. It's really amazing for me. It has to be the win of the season for me, actually, to be honest. Wow.
That game was like a fairy tale. And Laso, in all these years, he made this team so unique that even if you're missing not only one piece, even few pieces,
9,
even on the roster, 9 pieces, even if you're missing your head coach, actually, nothing changed. It's like the same machine, maybe just some different parts, but it still goes well.
I think Pablo Laso, being at home in isolation, watching that game, should have been the happiest person in the world at that moment. Seeing these 17-year-olds making good plays, seeing the team winning against CSKA, and CSKA had their full roster. Pablo Laso should have been so proud. It's fair to say that the Christmas were okay
it was like Christmas
for
magic.
Madrid, even though, of course, it's not nice that they are suffering because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I remember I wrote an article on basketnews.com website, Christmas Magic, who are these young killers that shocked CSKA, and EuroLeague TV voice Joy Orlauskas actually told just before the game that there might be some Christmas magic right there tonight, and for sure it was, and it was so impressive.
Garuba's younger brother, he went there against Shingelia, he made some hustle plays, he made good fouls.
He puts him on the ground, he's clapping in his face, and he's so fired up, and he's 17-year-old, and he's helping his team. Just a shorter version of Usman, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Klavzar, the same. He's playing 22 minutes, he's making important 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. Baba Miller, okay, he's still too early, but the skill, the body, the potential is all over there, and he will be great as well.
I think Klavzar knows that there was a pretty good Slovenian at the age of 17
right,
playing in Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the biggest moment of the season for me, actually.
I agree. This game was magical, but probably I was also affected by recent events. So that's why I took the shush as my moment of the mid-season, because I don't remember any, I would say, action or activity which have caused a bigger reaction, both during the game, the way how Palau Blaugrana, they're fired up, how it fired up Barca players, how it got Mirotic angry, how the players were reacting after the game. Brandon Davis, Piero Riola doing the shush and being smiling. Internet just exploded. Twitter just exploded because of Isaiah Canaan. What was also funny that Canaan replied later that he has no regrets. He had that selfie smiling on the plane saying that, hey, I will be waiting for you in Kazan. It created so much drama, and it could be one of the Netflix episodes, just about that shush. It was spectacular play in my eyes. Historical comeback. I mean, a lot of good things happening around it.
Yeah, I agree.
The third war. This one was for how to call it in Lithuanian in English.
Someone who is silencing doubters. Someone who silence their doubters. It's an easy one for me, actually. I just chose Velimir Parasovic because there were many people doubting him. There were like at least 2 people in this room that were doubting him before the season, and what he is doing with his team in Kazan is really special. Still, they have to fight a lot to make the playoffs. Still, there's a long way ahead of them, but it's fair to say already that he silenced some critics and doubters and proved that he really built a good team.
I actually took Unix in general because there were so many doubter silencers inside the team, starting from Parasovic, of course. Then, when I saw Hezonia signing with Unix, I was like, why he's doing that? I mean, that club doesn't have any culture. They don't have any fan base. He was so in love with Panathinaikos fans. Now he's going to the mediocre EuroLeague city with a very questionable roster and potential to make some noise in the EuroLeague. And now he's here. He's leading his team. They're making a playoff push. He's doing really well, and it seems like he's enjoying it so far. Then we had players like Isaiah Canaan, for example, unproven players in the EuroLeague. Good individuals, but we're not so sure how they will play in the EuroLeague and how it will combine with team winning games. Then we had the OJ Mayo, another big NBA name with very questionable personality, big history, and now he's proving many people wrong, even inside the Unix organization.
Andrei Vorontsevich is proving people wrong.
Vorontsevich is like, I don't know, Krapa or all these Russians, they play so many years and they still keep being effective.
He was playing in Nizhny Novgorod and you couldn't see him making a comeback to the EuroLeague, or at least not the way it is right now. I mean, if you're a Russian player, you get a spot on a roster somewhere. in Zenit or CSKA, but you don't play big minutes. And Vorontsevich is playing very quality basketball.
He's a very important piece in that team, especially for Parasovic to play big with him on the court. And I remember when he left CSKA, I think he was also offered Zenit, which is a natural case. He was offered for the best Russian teams, and nobody went for him. So he's proving many people wrong. And I'm not so sure about that, but what I like about Vorontsevich, for me, he seems to be a very funny guy. I don't remember because there was a scoreboard which kind of hide what Vorontsevich did, but if you remember well, Isaiah Canaan missed, I don't know if he was trying to dunk the ball or it was just a layup, but he missed that open layup. And there was a timeout later, and when Canaan and all the other players on the court were going towards the bench, Vorontsevich was on the bench. He jumped on the court to greet some of his players, and I think that he did this for Canaan, just like dunk the ball. It will be easier for you when on the court. So he's a funny player as well. Lorenzo Brown, for example, in Fenerbahce, in Zvezda, the biggest problem for Lorenzo Brown was that he was not involving other players in these teams. That's why he left Fenerbahce, because Fenerbahce players, probably the coaching staff, they didn't believe that he can involve others and he could be a true floor general. For this team, he's a great fit so far. So
he's the best point guard in the EuroLeague this season.
I agree. Maybe I would put Kostas Lukas.
But Brown is two-dimensional. He's good on defense.
Individually, in my eyes, he's
has a very
making
long
a bigger
hands
impact.
Yeah, definitely.
So great season for Unix, mid-season for the Unix organization so far. The fourth award is the player who needs to add the most in his game for the second part of the season to help both himself and his team.
Maybe it's not an award.
Yeah.
It's a mention.
Yeah, okay.
I would say Nikola Milutinov, actually, because CSKA needs him badly. They need him in good shape. He had some glimpses of the real Nikola Milutinov so far, but he's not there yet. And he needs to improve in the second part of the season for CSKA to get back to where they're supposed to be, because they're supposed to fight for the best positions in the regular season, and now they're behind Barca, behind Real, behind Olympiacos. So Nikola Milutinov for me is the guy. You could mention some other CSKA players. Actually, you could mention even Tornike Shengelia, that he cannot find his place right now. But Milutinov, first of all, because before the season, we were talking about him as an MVP candidate. We were expecting big things from him. He got hurt in the very first game of the season, in actually like the third minute of the game. He went out for a while. He got back on the court, but you could see that he still needs some time. But time is limited. The season is actually quite short. And I'm expecting
quite short, but quite long at the same time.
Yeah.
To regroup.
Quite short for you to improve your game and reach the form you want to be in. So I'm just hoping that Milutinov will be better not only for the playoffs, but he needs to be better now, because CSKA are not in the best situation at the moment.
Yeah, but I have Milutinov as well for this category, but I really believe in Milutinov. I think he's a great player, and for him, the only question is just how long it will take for him to get back in his usual shape.
It's about staying healthy.
Yeah.
First of all.
And it's going to be a game changer for CSKA for sure. And that's why I believe in CSKA a lot. I still see them as a title contenders, one of the best teams in the EuroLeague. And if they will add, for example, Brad Wanamaker, they will be just great. And for Milutinov, that's actually the easiest part, just to get back in shape in few months. And you mentioned about players progressing during the season. One of the best examples we have, one of the most unique examples we had, was Brandon Davis in Žalgiris, his first months in the club, and how he shined in the playoffs against Olympiacos. He just killed Olympiacos. And I remember I was having conversations with Antanas Kavaliauskas, and he told that. And he was already veteran, playing one of his last seasons in his pro career. And he told that I never witnessed such a fast and huge progress like Brandon Davis did in Žalgiris.
The timing of the contract extension Žalgiris gave to Brandon Davis was maybe the best GM move of the century.
That was a steal.
Yeah. Okay, so we agree on Milutinov. Let's move to the next one.
Best GM move of the mid-season, but that also includes
the
off-season.
The preseason, right. Best GM move, I think. Well, I still have to stay in Kazan, and I would say Unix managing to bring Hazonia. I'm sure that Hazonia had some other offers, maybe even to go back to the NBA, but Unix convinced him that this is a good project for you and you need to be here on our team in Kazan.
Tarasovic helped a lot.
So this is not only the best move, but arguably the biggest move of the summer market, because it was the biggest name moving clubs. So Hazonia joining Unix, I would say this one. There are others that I would say are honorable mentions. For example, you could mention Olympiacos, but it wouldn't be one move. It would be every single piece they brought. Dorsey, Walkup, and the others. And
yeah, that's how I cheated.
And Real Madrid, well, you could mention Yabusele, Ertel, and other players. But one single move, for me, it would be Hazonia.
I kind of cheated because I took the best GM move building the backcourt for Olympiacos. And it all started with Thomas Walkup. Clearly one of the best perimeter defenders in the EuroLeague. And was the great example for Panathinaikos. He's not expensive. He's getting something between 600,000 or 700,000 euros or US dollars per year, and you can afford it. And I kind of feel good for him that he didn't choose Žalgiris, because with Olympiacos he has a much better shot at least making the EuroLeague playoffs. And it all started from him, because him next to Kostas Lukas, it was already a great fit. But what happened later with Tyler Dorsey, there were some coincidences, let's say, because at first Olympiacos, they were after David Lighty, but as well offer him 5-year contract, something like that, which is also crazy in European basketball. Then they were also monitoring Matt Thomas, because Dorsey was still thinking about the NBA, going to the NBA. So as soon as he understood that he won't get a deal, at least a guaranteed deal, he turned back to Olympiacos to start the talks over again. And it was just a great timing to add scorer like Tyler Dorsey is. And I think that it's probably the most complete backcourt in the EuroLeague, having the premier elite defender like Thomas Walkup is. And first and foremost, he's an amazing teammate. His numbers doesn't show it, but he's just great, and the impact he makes is way bigger than his stats in the EuroLeague. I was told that he was probably most beloved foreign player in Olympiacos in recent 10 years or something.
Not so foreign, actually, with a Greek citizenship.
Thomas Walkup, I mean.
We're talking Walkup.
Yeah, Dorsey has Greek citizenship.
My bad.
Yeah, and Walkup is just amazing. He's sacrificing for his teammates a lot. He wants to make them better, and he always have them in front of him. And you have him, you have smart, elite, veteran point guard and leader like Kostas Lukas, and then you had the nasty scorer like Tyler Dorsey. If we talk about Isaiah Canaan provoking Pablo Laso, Dorsey was doing the same in Waka from the first minute of the game, and he was enjoying it, and he was killing from the first minute of the game. So big shout out to Olympiacos, the way they built this backcourt.
It's actually nice that you mentioned Matt Thomas. I kind of forgot about him.
Great player.
He's an extremely good shooter. I'm looking forward to seeing him back in the EuroLeague, because obviously the NBA game is not working for him because of his defensive abilities. He has a spot on the roster in Chicago, but he's barely playing, so it could be an amazing addition for some EuroLeague teams.
By the way, to finish it up about Olympiacos, we also can mention Gianoulis Larantzakis. I mean, I didn't follow him before Olympiacos. I didn't know who he was. But as a Greek local player, he fills that backcourt really well. He's a good fighter, he's also sacrificing for his team. He's already efficient.
Yeah,
I mean, that's an amazing combination.
A reliable role player, and you need these guys on your team.
Yeah. So yeah, the last one, all mid-season team. Who do you have for your, let's say, center position? Because I have to be honest, I don't have a clear tradition in center, and I split that 5 to backcourt and front line.
Well, for center, I still went with Eddie Tavares. I mean, he is just so consistent and so good at protecting the paint. There's no one better in protecting the paint and stopping other teams' players driving in the paint and blocking shots and doing all these things. There's still no one better than Walter Tavares doing these things. At the same time, being efficient on offense. Real Madrid are using him very well. It was a difficult start of the season maybe for him because of the African Championship where he played, but it didn't take long for him to get back in rhythm. And I just couldn't choose anyone above him, to be honest. Jan Vesely could be there, but his team's performances in comparison to Real Madrid's, this is the deciding factor for me, and I'm choosing Tavares.
In my mind, Tavares has the same problem like LeBron James did in his, let's say, few years in his prime in the NBA. He's so good, and we understand that he's the best, but for some reason it's too boring, and that's why we have to choose a different MVP. So in this case, Tavares is the best center, but I decided to show some praise to John Brown and what he did with Unix, because even if we talk about Hezonja, Lorenzo Brown, I didn't have them on my mid-season all team, although you could have both of them actually. But I think that John Brown was that glue guy who helped everyone to be better. Both Hezonja, both Lorenzo Brown, they deserve to be on this team. But I think that John Brown was the biggest game changer, and he can perform really well as a center as well. And he's playing on one of the and probably the most overachieved teams in the EuroLeague.
Yeah, he can play as a center. He plays as a center in some situations. Still, it would be unfair, in my opinion, to leave out Tavares just because it's boring.
For me, it's too boring. Really. Sorry,
okay.
Walter.
Okay.
Power forward.
Is it boring?
Nikola Mirotic. I mean,
how can you not include Nikola Mirotic?
Because he's the MVP of the midseason, and I also have him on my all team. We don't even need to talk about it.
It would be impossible to choose anybody else. I mean, there are some good examples of power forwards performing. John Brown, one of them. You put him at center, but obviously he could be considered as a power forward. But no one can be on the same.
The best EuroLeague player.
No one can be in the same discussion with Nikola Mirotic right now. Just simple.
Not just the way he scores, numbers he gets. I mean, he took many games in his hands, and he was really good in clutch moments. Just, I hope that he will continue playing like that, and especially in the playoffs and the Final Four, because that's the place where Barca will need him the most. But so far, he's just amazing. It seems like he has some vendetta, had before the season, losing that MVP to Vasilij Mitic and also losing the title to Efes.
Yeah.
So to finish my front line, also, again, I'm cheating. I like cheating. So I had Gershon Yabusele. That's why I took him instead of Walter Tavares.
Oh, yeah. Gershon Yabusele, small forward?
I'm playing big.
So
I'm like Unix.
No. So Mirotic can be the small forward.
Okay.
Not Yabusele.
I mean, I don't have positions. I have a front line and backcourt.
At least change them on paper, man.
There's no
nothing
difference.
There's nothing small about Yabusele to call him small forward. I'm sorry, man.
Okay.
I mean, I'm cheating.
If you're better with this, John Brown, Yabusele, and Nikola Mirotic.
Okay, that's better.
I'm playing positionless basketball.
Sharas had some minutes with Mirotic in the third position, so
there were some crazy lineups. but it didn't go well because Unix were killing them in the fast break situations.
I mean, in the season against Anadolu Efes, they broke the game with the lineup where Mirotic was the small forward. I cheated a little bit as well, but not as much as putting Yabusele at third position.
Because to finish about Yabusele, he was a real game changer, and especially he stepped up when Real were missing two great power forwards, Anthony Randolph and Troy Tompkins. He is the best scorer of Real Madrid team. He has the best plus minus in that team, and it doesn't look like he's the newcomer in Madrid.
So I also cheated a little bit, but not as much. This guy definitely can play small forward, and he played small forward, and I think he will still get some minutes if needed in this position. I wanted to have at least one player from Olympiacos, so I went with Sasha Vezenkov.
Wow, okay.
He's having a very good season, especially the recent performances were very impressive. There's just not much to say. He's a very talented player, and now we're finally seeing his full potential, maybe, because I remember when he moved to Barcelona from Ares, he was labeled like the next big thing from Europe, but those years in Barcelona, he never actually became the star player. So he moved to Olympiacos. His first year in Olympiacos also was a struggle. You were thinking maybe he's actually not good enough. He's just too soft or something. And everything changed actually in the second part of last season when he started playing as an elite offensive player, as an elite forward. And this year is the best version of Sasha Vezenkov we have seen so far. And in my opinion, he deserves a mention here in the all EuroLeague 5 of the mid-season, of course.
From Olympiacos, I had Tyler Dorsey. And actually put any Olympiacos backcourt player on that five, and I will be okay with that because they were game changers to me as well. But yeah, Dorsey is the best scorer of Olympiacos. He adds a lot of value to their team, and he improved the Olympiacos team significantly. And I just couldn't ignore the fact that they're third on the standings. And actually, I took all team members from top 6 teams, the reason why I put them on my 5 was based mainly on the team record and game-changing factor. So that's why I have Dorsey in my backcourt.
Okay, fair enough. Right, shooting guard. It was difficult for me to decide, actually. I went with a player from one of those underperforming teams. Actually, his numbers as a whole during the season are not so great because he started the season a little bit slow, but now, before he got hurt in the very last game, of course, he was leading the way and he was playing very impressive basketball. So it's Nando De Colo for me. It's a shame that now he's out and he will be missing games, and it's a big problem for Fenerbahce. Not only him, but also Jan Vesely got hurt. But when you saw him playing recently in those games they won against Baskonia, against Maccabi, against Zenit, you could see that he's still one of the greatest in the league. So maybe it's a strange choice because the team is underperforming and there are other guys with better numbers. You could even pick Shane Larkin over De Colo, but it's just my impression of what he did in the, let's say, recent 5 or 6 games.
Yeah, okay. Good choice. And my last selection for my all mid-season team is Jordan Lloyd from Zenit St. Petersburg, because I feel that you must credit Zenit for joining the top group of mid-season teams without a true point guard. Jordan Lloyd was never a point guard, but he had to take some point guard duties in Xavi's team, and that project somehow it worked really well, and Jordan actually won some games for Zenit, and as I said, he managed to survive as a point guard for this team in some long stretches and to take them to their 5th in the standings, 4th actually. So that's an amazing achievement.
Now, for me, it was an easy choice. I just went with Lorenzo Brown. I think he's the best point guard in the league this season. We talked a lot about Unix already and about him, so there's not much to say, but Lorenzo Brown, also because of his abilities on defense. He's a two-dimensional player. He's doing great things defensively as well, and also leading the team, being the true leader, involving everybody else. It's not easy to be a point guard on a team that has Canaan and Hazonia and others, but he's doing it at a very high level. So for me, he's definitely the point guard for the mid-season team.
Yeah. So that's all about our mid-season teams.
Yeah.
Let's finish this one about the upcoming games. We will have games because of the New Year. We'll have games on Thursday and Wednesday. And let's talk about really shortly, about games. We will be discussing the next week, and one of these games is at Monaco, Maccabi. There were already some reports by Roy Cohen that if Maccabi loses this one, Sfairopoulos is gone. If that's really the case, usually it's already done for Sfairopoulos, because if not,
it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's only the matter of time, and it's actually the bad situation. So I hope this information is wrong, because it's kind of a death sentence, both to the coach and both to Maccabi season. Although what is interesting, that I made some research that during this new era of EuroLeague, with this new format since 2016 and 17 season, there were 30 coaching changes, and only 5 of them, which is 16%, later that team made the playoffs. And one of these cases where, for example, when Xavi Pascal replaced Argyris Padoulakis after the one game, so it wouldn't be actually fair to put him on that list. There were cases with Rick Pitino, for example. Although the winning percentage was kind of the same, he made the playoffs and was later swept by Real Madrid. So actually, usually the head coach is not the main reason. It's not the solution, the main solution, the best solution to change things. It helped in Vitoria twice with Perasovic changing Pedro Martinez, and then also Pedro Martinez changing Pablo Prigioni. But most of the times, as the numbers show, it doesn't change the whole picture. So I'm not so sure if that's the main thing which Maccabi should do. Of course, they're losing games 7 in a row. They lost against Hapoel Jerusalem in the Israeli Championship, so it's kind of unavoidable, probably.
The game they had against Zenit, actually, they almost won the game. They almost snatched a victory in the match. They were really struggling.
Mm-hmm. That would be unfair victory for Maccabi.
They had to change the way they play. They started playing through the paint, feeding Jalen Reynolds because Zenit's defense really stopped Scotty Wilbeck and Keenan Evans and all these other guys. And after Derek Williams' monster dunk, they were so close to winning it, but Billy Barron had some different plans. Yeah, and if they had this win, maybe we wouldn't be talking right now about Sfairopoulos being fired. But Monaco, they're a team that we know are very vulnerable.
That's the case.
Let's say
we cannot predict what kind of version of Monaco we'll.
We don't know what's gonna happen, which makes this game kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have them on December 29th, as well as Olympiacos CSKA, another amazing great game in Piraeus. And December 30, we have Unix FS, also an exciting game to watch and to discuss the next week, most likely. Then, of course, Zvezda hosts Zenit, Pau hosts Žalgiris, Baskonia against Barcelona, as well against Real Madrid. And unfortunately, we have 2 games postponed.
As well against Bayern.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. And unfortunately, we have 2 games postponed, Fenerbahce Real and Armani Alba.
So just very quickly, maybe Fenerbahce, do you see a way out of this?
They have to sign somebody. And it's going to be tough.
Decolo is out for like 6 weeks?
Something like that.
At least for
4 weeks. That's painful. And they were kind of building up a little bit for the second part of the season, but now with these 2 significant losses, it's going to be very tough to make the playoffs.
Their roster is already thin, and now you're losing both of your superstars.
Yeah, they don't have Devin Booker as well. Okay, Taverioglu is not a real absence, but
you lost 2 of your greatest players and 2 of the greatest players in their positions in the whole league. and you're already behind in the standings. I mean, you could survive if it would be 10. The record would be 10 wins, 7 losses, but the record is the opposite, 7-10.
At least they have games postponed, so maybe it will help them to survive.
I don't know. And I don't know if there's a signing on the market that could actually cover for the Colo and Vesely. It's very hard.
Yeah. And that's pretty much it, right? 2 hours of our podcast.
2 hours, yeah.
Probably pretty much it.
Because we started those unnecessary discussions off topic. We should not...
Starting with dumplings, Netflix,
we should
format.
not prepare to cover as many topics as we do, because either way, we start talking some different stuff.
But that's okay.
Yeah, not a problem.
That's
it's
why
the last podcast of the year anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just Happy New Year to everybody, and stay safe and stay healthy.
See you soon, and follow us on basketnews.com. Okay.